First, we will have Professor Mouleshri Vyas, is a professor at the Center for Community Organization and Development Practice, School of Social Work, Mumbai. Her teaching, research, field action, and training focus on urban and rural community development, community organization, informal labor and livelihood, post-disaster interventions, social impact assessment, monitoring and evaluation, social accountability, and social audits. Over the years, she has worked closely with grassroots organizations, government departments, corporates, and trade unions, and was associated with the International Center for Development and Decent Work, or ICCD, a global consortium of universities. She is also a member of the Manharniwan Calcutta Research Group, or CRG. Professor Vyas brings a neighborhood lens to Mumbai's urban transformation for today's lecture, linking everyday community life to the political economy of land, governance, and informal work. Her recent work includes an International Journal of Urban and Regional Research article on self-governance and citizenship in Mumbai's slum relocation colonies, 2024, as a co-author, alongside publications on housing policy and social exclusion, was published by Oxford University Press on 2019 as a co-author, and the lived realities of informal and marginal workers in the city, including economic and political weekly on 2016. At TISS, she teaches postgraduate MA and MPhil courses, including community organization, urbanization, governance, and informal work, program planning and management, and research colloquium. And she also designed the UGC PG Patsala online module on community organization. And our second speaker will be Dr. Sirada Khemanitthathai. Is a lecturer at the School of International Affairs, Faculty of Political Science and Public Administration, Chiang University, and currently serves as the IDRC Research Chair on Forced Displacement in Southeast Asia at the Regional Center for Social Science and Sustainable Development, or RCSD. She earned her PhD in Politics and International Studies from SOES, University of London, and holds an MSc in International Migration and Public Policy from London Schools of Economics, with BA International Relations from Chulalongkorn University. Her research sits at the intersection of international migration politics, migration diplomacy, human rights, international relations, and contemporary Myanmar politics, with particular attention to Thai-Myanmar cross-border dynamics after 2021 coup. Her recent scholarship includes work on security cooperation and non-traditional security challenge in the Myanmar and Thailand context, which became one of her publication on European Journal of International Security, which published 2025, and conceptual contributions on studying migration through state-to-state relations on Political Science and Public Administration Journal 2024. She has also published on Myanmar's ethnic-based citizenship regime and the 1982 Citizenship Law, Political Science and Public Administration Journal 2023. And her doctoral thesis examines Myanmar's immigration policies and as instruments of foreign policy. And now we already have Professor Vyas here. So we welcome you, Professor Vyas. Can wait, and we are so excited to hear your lecture. So over to you, Professor Vyas.
Thank you very much. I hope I'm audible and my voice is clear.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to think about and work on this particular topic. It's not one that I have really put together very clearly, but I'm really looking forward to this interaction. Thank you, everybody. And as the title indicates, I am going to talk about neighborhoods and communities and the city, and I'll focus my work on Mumbai. It's the city that I think I know best. I have worked here, studied it, and I'm really always happy to learn more and more about it. So the city of Mumbai, with a focus on its neighborhoods and its communities. And as you know, the theme of the session is about how outsiders, refugees, and migrants contribute to making the city plural and cosmopolitan. I mean, that's the broad idea. So I thought, let's start looking at the city a little. I'm taking a city-wide view, and I'm going to try and discuss it through its neighborhoods. And if we have to construct the city through its neighborhoods, what is the story that the neighborhoods tell us, or what do they tell us about what's happening within the neighborhoods and what's happening with the rest of the city? And when we look at the city through its neighborhoods, what kind of city does it emerge as, is a large question that I'm trying to study and get into. As we all know, neighborhoods reflect the histories of their people, of their places. They reflect changes and transitions that they're going through, and they also tell us about the connections among people within them, that is within the neighborhoods and also across neighborhoods. And so what I'm going to do is I'll try and focus on some neighborhoods, and I'll also look at not only the place and therefore not only the built environment, but I'll look at also communities and therefore lives and livelihoods and all of those aspects, and to see what the neighborhood actually means to those people. So now I'm looking very briefly at the history of the city, and like all histories, this is also a constructed one. But and I'm not really a scholar of history, but I started reading about the history of Mumbai and learning about it more in terms of understanding what's happening with communities and with neighborhoods. But a brief overview of the city of Mumbai tells us that it spanned several centuries, and it has actually it has actually changed hands several times, from the Delhi Sultanate to the Portuguese, to the English merchants, to the British East India Company and the British Crown. The city, and whatever form it was in at that time, it has changed hands through several rulers. For many centuries, Mumbai was a series of 7 islands, and in this slide you can see the 7 islands. The light pink patches are the 7 islands of the city, and it was in the 18th century that the British took on the project of actually connecting the 7 islands, and so it became one contiguous landmass. And obviously, because of that, the communication, the mobility of people across these islands increased, and they also had better access to the rest of to other places beyond their islands. The British also moved the trading center from Surat to Mumbai, and they built Mumbai as a port. It was of great significance because it was used to actually bring in raw materials that were shipped to England, and finished goods were brought back to Mumbai. And cheap labor from Mumbai, from outside Mumbai was also settled in the Mumbai area, in the Mumbai city, because it was needed to work in the factories and the industries that were set up. And so the British actually played a key role in developing infrastructure, and they also developed the infrastructure as they needed it, because they needed to transport their goods from one part of the region to the other. And hence the railway line was also constructed. This was in the 19th century, and the passenger railway service also came up. Some of the neighborhoods in Mumbai actually, the neighborhoods in Mumbai that we know at present, they started coming up in the 19th and the early part of the 20th century. And they were roads, housing colonies. Some neighborhoods were actually constructed to deal with particular situations. So the 1896 plague, had to be managed, and the Bombay City Improvement Trust at that time built new settlements to deal with congestion, to manage hygiene and to manage the population. It was also around this period that one of the communities that had come and settled in the region, the Parsis, they also got some land in Bombay. It was then known as Bombay. They also got some land in Bombay to build settlements and colonies, residential colonies for themselves. And from the late 19th century into the 20th century, you see a flyover, then a road, a residential neighborhood along the coastline. All of these came up, and many iconic structures were also constructed in this period. So why am I looking at the neighborhoods? I mean, it has been an area of study for several disciplines, but my own interest in this topic comes from some, I would say, rather very city level issues and questions. One is that for several decades now, one of the questions that has bothered the politicians, that has bothered communities and academics and researchers, is this question of whose city is it? And many communities have claimed that it is theirs. So the original inhabitants of the city, or the indigenous communities like the Kolis and the Agaris, say that it is our city. We have lived here from the beginning, from time immemorial. And then there are the other communities that settled here a few centuries later, who say that, but we built it and it is ours. So the Pathare Prabhus as a community say that it is our city. But this contestation has continued for some years, some decades, and it became important because at that time the politics of the city was all around the city and in the region, in the state, was also one where there was a debate of the sons of the soil. So, who are the people who are people of this soil and who have a right to remain here, and who are the outsiders. So the framing of the discourse on the insider and the outsider was also very important. In today's time, I don't see it as a very burning question, but it was prevalent for several years, till recently. The second point of concern is this whole debate around resilience. And I'm sure that many of you have studied it and also experienced this in the cities where you are based. But communities and cities are often praised for their resilience, or resilience of people is questioned whenever there is a crisis, or when it is appreciated also when people come forward, when they rally around, when they support each other, and when they appear to have dealt with a crisis very effectively and kind of lent support to others and other communities. So resilience of the community has often been called, often been called forward and appreciated. And it's not simply that, but also the fact that residents and insiders also say that, what is this whole discussion about resilience? We are going through a difficult time and we really don't have a choice but to respond in the way that we are responding. So, I mean, I don't want to simplify this point, but I just want to say here that there is, cities are expected to be resilient, they're expected to respond to crises and to be able to do so, and yet insider experiences are not so simply very positive or very easily dealt with. They are very challenging as well. And so it's a good idea to look closely at what happens with communities. The third point is that, the sense of community, of solidarities and possibilities in cities is, I don't want to say infinite, but it's quite immense because of the scale at which lives are lived and livelihoods are engaged with. So the scale offers immense opportunity to build solidarities, in as much as it also makes the context very complex. When we look at neighborhoods, a valid question would be the one of boundaries, and to look at, our neighborhoods spatially and as built environment. Are they distinct? Are they kind of merging into other parts of the city? Are they actual? and therefore I'm here talking about, demarcations in terms of walls, fences, or even very specific distinct areas, or are the boundaries actually constructed and therefore understood by those who deal with these neighborhoods and live there? So I thought this boundary question is interesting to also keep in mind as we study neighborhoods. The next point is to do with what happened in the pandemic. And I am sure that several of the cities in South Asia and Southeast Asia, you must have, we all coped with it in various ways, and in particular class backgrounds and neighborhoods. The pandemic really, while everybody retreated into the homes, the neighborhood also gained some amount of primacy, because that was the nearest that you could count on for support when everybody else seemed very far away. And to give an example, the WhatsApp groups or the online communication with neighbors, it became so important in just hanging on and dealing with the crisis of the pandemic, and the everyday coping, the everyday functioning of the pandemic, and of course also the crisis that it brought for all of us. So I thought that the nature of communities and the sense of community is also changing, and have some of these changes sustained, or have they been very transient? Perhaps temporality also has a role to play, and one can look at neighborhoods from that point of view to see what happened in the city. Is it really a sense of the city, or is it a sense of the neighborhood? And somebody's work that I was reading, one of the authors was actually talking about the fact that we don't really live in the city of Mumbai, but we live in this particular neighborhood or that particular neighborhood, and so on. So for all practical purposes, do people really identify in an everyday sense with the larger city, or with the sense of just the neighborhood or that immediate environment around where they are living and working and so on? This would be an important concern, and especially when you look at enclaves of urbanism, and when you look at certain kinds of communities, and you see that connection with the city is practically also very limited for many sections of the population. And the last point here that really triggered this thought for me about studying this topic is actually neighborhood tourism, and the fact that it is quite popular in Mumbai. And perhaps some of you have also, you may have done these tours, or maybe they happen in your cities. But this whole tour of a particular neighborhood, a walking tour of an area, a cycling tour of a neighborhood, a heritage walk, or a walk through the lanes of a particular neighborhood to experiment with the foods and the street foods and the city life in the evenings. All of this, or a walk through an informal settlement, or a basti, or a slum as we know it. So visiting Dharavi and seeing what it is about, and talking to people, and all of this. And I see so many of these tours have gained immense popularity. And the question then is, so how do these neighborhoods get selected? What is it that we are seeking to highlight? Is it something exotic about them? It has to be something that is beyond the everyday, because otherwise why would one want to go and walk through a particular neighborhood? So you want a new experience. Do you feel a nostalgia for something that you don't have? In particular neighborhoods, it's an idyllic community life that is also constructed and showcased. So is it something that we wish we could get for the rest of the other neighborhoods, or is it something that we are missing in the way our lives in the city have now become? So what exactly is underlying this whole neighborhood tourism industry, other than the business side of it? These were some of the thoughts that I had when I started working. And I think the points in this slide on perspective, I hope it's visible to everybody. I have flipped slides. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this slide is, if you have seen the readings that I have shared, I'm actually drawing on some thoughts from at least two of the authors. I'm trying to see that, when we select neighborhoods, when we study particular communities, do we also fall into the label trap, or do we need labels? And do we need something distinct to actually focus our study? What are the implicit assumptions in such choices that we make? Even when we study neighborhoods or communities, do we really get to study them, or is there always a part of it that is hidden and to the outsider and to externalize? So what we see is actually one-sided view of things. Or of course, you have methods to bring in insider views, but how can one work and study and work with these communities with a sense that one is still an outsider and still trying to bridge that difference, and knowing that one will never completely get there? And the last thought that I had was, also this assumption of homogeneity of neighborhoods is, of course, one needs to question. And so, that experiences of neighborhoods are diverse within the community, and it's a good idea to keep that in mind always, so that we also don't simplify experiences of neighborhoods or actions of neighborhood members, and also their experience of the city. So do we need unbiased perspective towards diverse neighborhoods? Is an unbiased perspective really possible? How would one construct that kind of a study? And is it true that less exotic neighborhoods get less attention? So then what kind of neighborhoods would I choose if I had to study or talk about neighborhoods in the city? And can we engage in people-centered comparisons between neighborhoods in one city? This is a thought that one of the authors has put forward. And also that we need to acknowledge heterogeneity within neighborhoods. So drawing on these thoughts, and I know I haven't been very successful. I mean, I have to still get deeper into the subject. But I think what I have tried to do is, I've started with neighborhoods that have stories, and that stand out in the city. And that I'm not saying that all those in this list are they're not part of the neighborhood tourism. Some may be, definitely. But I thought I'm not going to choose only those. I'm going to look at maybe a range of neighborhoods, and I have tried to do that. So here are these are the 6 types that I'm going to talk about. I didn't really want to focus it on neighborhoods, but I thought that that's one way to look at how the history of the city has brought in certain communities, and what have they brought to the city, or how have they made the city, and where are they now? And when you look at where they are now and the kind of questions that they are confronted with, you realize the nature of change that is taking place in the larger city. Okay, this picture is one of an advanced locality management group. It's actually a small community meeting that's going on, which means I actually forgot to explain these. Sorry. So here I'm going back. Apologies for this. This is 2005 July floods in the city, when people were stuck for more than a day in wherever they were, and finally the rain battered the city, and people walked for hours across various parts of the city without food, without water, and they just held hands and they walked. And as they walked across the stretch of the city, people from various neighborhoods that they crossed, they gave them food, water, got them into their homes, and allowed them to use washrooms and other facilities. So this experience has been quite a watershed for the city. This picture here is a picture of a textile mill in Mumbai, Mumbai, a city of textile mills, and it was a hub of of uh, of the cotton textile industry, and migrants came from all across the state to work here. So till the 20th century, it drew migrants into the city. Of course, this picture looks nothing like a textile mill. This is what one part of that one textile mill compound looks like at present. It has become a lot of buildings with offices, and so you can see the air conditioners, and it's an office, the back of an office building. And this compound now has a lot of pubs and restaurants and offices. It looks very different now. This picture is actually a colony of sanitation workers, and it's one kind of a residential neighborhood. I'd say this is pretty organized as far as, if you look at it in comparison with all neighborhoods. This is a neighborhood for sanitation workers, one section of sanitation workers in the city. And this is a small meeting in progress. Some of the participants, the pictures got cut off, but okay, I'll move here. So I'm talking now about 4 or 5 of the communities, and let me see if I can manage the time well. The Parsis. The Parsis are one of the very distinct communities in Mumbai, and they came from Persia, which is now Iran. They came to India in the 7th century to escape political and religious persecution. There are around at least about 25 colonies. They are the Parsi colonies, and this colony that you see in the picture, this is one side of one particular Parsi colony in the city. They were set up in the 1890s. Because of the plague, some parts of the city needed to be decongested, and one of the Parsi business people, he asked the government for land in Dadar area, which is more city center. Now the city center, but at that time it was just swampy, marshy land. And they built a colony there so that people could move there and start settling down. Today, the Parsi colonies are about 25 in number. This is typically what the buildings look like, and they house members of the Parsi community. It is a distinct ethnic and religious identity that the community has. In many of the Parsi colonies, you also see non-Parsis living there now. There is an umbrella Parsi organization called the Bombay Parsi Panchayat. That organization controls all the lands and the estate of the Parsi community. And so some of these houses that you see here, they are like apartments. They are actually, they have people, the same family living there for many generations. And the apartments have a standard design. Parsi community has made a distinct contribution to Mumbai and to the country, but to industry, culture, the food, in many ways they have really merged with the rest of the city and yet been very distinct. One of the I don't know whether to call it a crisis, but yeah, one of the key concerns about the community is the dwindling population. And at present, the population is about 60,000. And in the 1940s, it was about 100,000 people and has now dwindled to about 60,000. And the community is really very concerned about how they're going to survive in the coming decades. I mean, they really need to, to make sure that the numbers grow. There are reasons why this is happening, and the Parsi community they've also come up with a program to encourage more growth of the population and to review some of the decisions that they have taken about who is considered a Parsi and who is not. So if you marry outside the community, if a Parsi woman marries outside the community, then the children are not recognized as Parsi. And so they have some of these norms and practices which have also led to the issue with the low population. The rents are very low here in all of these colonies, and this is why, although many of the families have left the country and they've migrated out, they still retain a hold. They keep paying the rent because they don't want to lose the house in a city where real estate is very expensive. Today, one of the concerns of the Parsi colonies is the redevelopment that is taking place. New projects are coming up around them, and lands are also being acquired slowly for commercial purposes and for housing. And so, how will they preserve the lands, and how will they ensure that the community survives, is some of their key concerns. The next one I want to talk about is the coolies. The coolies are Mumbai's original fishing community. I mean, they're also one of the, what one would say, is indigenous populations and inhabitants, and their fishing villages are along the entire coast of the city. So as a coastal city, from south to north, the coast is dotted with what are known as kolivadas. So in this picture, what you see is a Koli neighborhood, and in their language it's called Koli Vada. Vada is the neighborhood. So this is the neighborhood of the Kolis in one part of the city, which is somewhere towards the south. It's called Worli. So these houses that are painted, these colored houses, they all form part of this neighborhood of the Koli Vada. If you look in the distance, you might be able to see one of our big infrastructure projects that came up, which is a sea link, which connects one part of the city, the northern part of the city, to the south. And it's a sea link. This entire roadway was built over the sea. So many pillars were constructed, and you can see the stretch of the road. It was meant to reduce the travel time from north to south and south to north by many minutes. Okay, so it has been a huge infrastructural achievement and for the state. It was also projects such as this have posed a big challenge to the Koli community across the coastline of the city, because the construction of the roads on the sea actually disturbs the marine life, and the livelihoods of the community are also threatened. So apart from this, there is the problem of water pollution. So Koli community is at present dealing with some of these larger changes that are coming up, these larger projects coming up in the city, and trying to mobilize so that they get adequately compensated and they do not lose out in terms of livelihoods and security for their future generations. That's the Koli community. Okay, here are two more pictures of the community, just to give you a visual sense of what it is about. The fact is that it cannot be separated from the sea, and so when redevelopment takes place, people are housed in locations where land is available, and the coastline lands are really very prime property. So we have to see now, if redevelopment takes place and if there is talk of relocating some of these communities, their livelihoods and their very social and cultural fabric is going to be under threat. The third community, the East Indians. So the Parsis, the Kolis, and the East Indians, I'm looking at more in the sense of the history of the city, and being very long standing and what one can say very early settlers or inhabitants of the city. The East Indians have been here for several centuries, and they were the earliest converts into Christianity in this part of the country. And in the time of the British itself, in the colonial period in India, the Catholics in the northern region of Mumbai, they changed their name from their term from Portuguese Christians to East Indians, because they wanted to tell the British that we are among your early subjects in this part of the world, so we should have privileges, and we need to be treated differently. So these communities, the East, they call themselves the East Indians, and they settled in lands across this part of the country. This is in the west of the country. They settled in villages, and the village land is known as a gauthan. These So across the city, even today, you see many gauthans with uh, lanes, a particular design of architecture, distinct Portuguese influence in the design of the houses. You also see a sense of community. I'm saying sense in a, in a visible sense, and it's one of the areas, the neighborhoods where there is tourism, these tours that are organized. And here you can see somebody playing a guitar, and people are sitting and listening to them and having conversations, but really constructing an idyllic kind of life and neighborhood. But Kotachiwadi in Mumbai is very popular as a tourist visiting spot. And this building on the right that you see, where the walls are painted, there are entire lanes in some neighborhoods which have this kind of artwork. It's different kind of different motifs and different figures, but this one here is of one of the Bollywood stars of the 1970s and 80s in the Hindi film industry. But that's what this picture is. And here you see a small, it's like a grotto. It's there in the lanes of this village. One of the issue that the Gauthans are facing is that the land is gradually getting acquired for projects, and in some cases they're not able to prove that that land is theirs because they don't have formal demarcation of that land, and there is also gentrification taking place in the neighborhood. This picture here shows it's a notice that was put out recently in 2025 by some of these associations of the East Indian community, urging their members to come together to mobilize to protect their village, because the villages were going to be surveyed and going to be declared as slums, which also meant that they would be treated as slums and land could be acquired and for certain kinds of projects and so on. So they wanted the community to mobilize for protesting this survey. The Sindhis, now I'll just go a little faster just to give you an idea. So the Sindhis came in after independence in India in 1947, but they moved into particular part of the city, Mumbai region. It's more in the east of Mumbai. They worked, they traded, they studied, they really set up businesses and enterprises. The men and the women all worked, and they made an immense contribution to the city. There's one part of the city which is Ulhasnagar, which is a far eastern suburb now, that really has a significance in the population. They're struggling with civic amenities, they're struggling with the quality of construction and such issues, but their contribution to education, to food and to business in the city is really quite immense. This is Mumbra. Trying to also look at some of the neighborhoods where we have worked through social workers and field practice, and also highlight this, maybe differences across neighborhoods and within them. But here Mumbra is a far eastern suburb of the city. It has a high density of population. There are issues with the quality of construction. You can just see the congestion here in the picture on the right. It's also one neighborhood that grew considerably with a Muslim population, and more as at particular points in the history of the city, Muslims felt more secure in this part of the city, and they kind of gravitated towards building this up as a neighborhood. But it's not one where you only have a Muslim population. The population is mixed. there are people from other religious communities who also live there. And for those of us who have worked here, we know that there is intra-neighborhood solidarity that is still prevalent. Although for an outsider, it might appear as a predominantly Muslim neighborhood, but within the community itself, the equations, the relations are very interesting and more solid. Here's Dharavi. I'm just mentioning it to say that it's up for redevelopment. It's also regarded as, just look at the tagline. I mean, it's one of the largest slums in Asia, and it has a huge history, but so many decades, actually more than a century or two, where people have settled here. They built up the land, but that land is now being acquired for commercial development and for also in situ housing for these populations. But some of them who are not eligible are going to be moved to another part of the city. So why I thought we look at this is also to say that what happens within a settlement is a lot more than the everyday life. Dharavi is an industrial hub. It's a hub for many industries, including the recycling industry. And this picture shows the whole, recycling of plastic that is taking place here. But there are many industries that thrive in Dharavi. It has a huge population of about more than 800,000 people. I think it has in about 2 or 3 square kilometers of space. So it's very densely populated and a significant contribution to all aspects of city life, from food provisioning, packed lunches, to recycling, and the green work that the residents of this colony do. And the last that I'm talking about is the resettlement and rehabilitation colonies. These are certain types of neighborhoods that are now increasing in the city. I think in Mumbai itself, there are more than 70 such colonies where you have thousands of families that have been resettled here. They were displaced from where they lived earlier, and they were relocated into these colonies, of course, with conditions of eligibility. To make way for infrastructure development and such projects. Life in these R&R colonies is, it's a lot about rebuilding connections, establishing new networks, making sense of the increased cost of living, dealing with disrupted transport and services, and finding one's way into the city. But the location of these colonies and also the intra-colony issues offer a lot of scope for us to engage with the communities, to work there, and to also study what is happening there. But I'd say that these are also an example of involuntary neighborhoods, in a sense, because you don't have a choice often about where you want to, which neighborhood would you like to be relocated to. Sometimes you don't have that choice. Sometimes you have a choice, and then you may choose, okay, I want to live in this particular part of the city and not in that part of the city. So do people have a say? Most often they don't. And sometimes the say that they have is whether they want to live on the ground floor, the first floor of the building, or on the 7th floor. That's what. So choices they shrink depending on the framework of that project. And the last, are these communities, and when you look at Mumbai and the size of the city and its population, we need to ask ourselves whether these communities and neighborhoods, are they islands in the city, or are they connections and bridges, and what are those? And when we try, I think we need to look at flows of people. We can't say that these are just islands, although they appear distinct in terms of experiences and their history. But we still, when you look at people flows, you'll find that the type of map of the city that comes up looks a little different. People move from one part of the city to the other. They spend hours in areas which are not their homes. They interact with others in those parts of the city. So they build very different parts of the city, not just the one where they live. there is a sense of community and a sense of community, of a sense of the city. So if we say that yes, community is also important and the city also is important because you're traversing city spaces. Not everybody is, but sections of the population are. So if you're traversing city spaces, if you are connected with the city through services or through certain goods that you consume and people that you meet and so on in social and economic terms, then would we say that the sense of the city is more crisis dependent? Because do we feel more connected with the unknown people, unknown areas, or unfamiliar faces and neighborhoods and people when there is a crisis? And perhaps there is something to that, because those seem to be moments or some kind of watersheds where people come together and then they may disperse again, but there's a different kind of dynamic that happens at that time. The experiences of these communities show the nature of governance and homogenizing tendency of policy and practice, because being treated as a slum or being therefore subsumed under a particular kind of approach or policy for slums, it just takes away the history of those communities. And so there is a certain kind of homogenizing that takes place, and that is what the East Indian community, for example, that's what they fear. They don't want to be declared as slums. They want to be recognized and treated as neighborhoods, as communities with particular history, and to be allowed to live the way that they wish to. And the most important point is that communities exist, neighborhoods exist, are built, communities are built, but one of the key bases for mobilizing and organizing is there in all these issues that we have talked about. And there is a lot of solidarity and community building that is taking place for a number of reasons. So communities are faced with issues, they are faced with survival questions, they're struggling to protect their lands in certain instances. And so this forms the basis of coming together and building solidarity and building community. And I think that so there is hope for community, but we have to see how that translates into a certain kind of future for neighborhoods. Is that, are neighborhoods bound to be, are they bound to change, or can they control some of the kind of changes that take place for them and around them? That is a big question. And so as the map of the city undergoes changes, at least the people should be able to be together and stay connected with each other and address their common concerns. I think that is the importance of the direction in which the city is going. And yeah, I think these are some thoughts that I wanted to end with. I'll stop here.
Thank you so much for your lecture, Dr. Vyas. It was a very insightful lecture as you tell us more, not only about the neighborhood Mumbai, but also the historical of the neighborhood city on the Mumbai. Even you also tell us about how the community shaped there. So it's really like kind of more comprehensive, and it's very new, especially for me. And unfortunately, we don't have that much time, so maybe we can only accommodate 1 to 2 questions. So I give a floor for the participant first if anyone wants to ask and want to know more about the lecture. Okay. Over to you, Hak.
My question is actually regarding the question, whose city is it? So Dhaka is 417 years old. It was founded in 1608. So I wasn't born in Dhaka, but I was brought up in this mega city. I was educated in this city. I've been working my entire life here. I've contributed to this city as an academic. My parents have property here, land and flat. I also have property here. and I will fight anyone tooth and nail, literally and figuratively, that Dhaka belongs to me just as it belongs to those who built it and those who originated from it, the people who are called Dhakayas. So I want to know what's your opinion regarding my claim to Dhaka?
Thanks. I think I was trying to communicate through the lecture the fact that since neighborhoods are also evolving, I also see that city making is a process that continues. We cannot say that it has been made at a particular point of time. Of course, contributions are diverse and they have significance depending on the phase of city making when these contributions were made. But I firmly believe that everybody in their in particular epochs or periods of time contributes to making that city, because it is a dynamic and a living entity, and hence whether it is you in Dhaka or people like me in Mumbai who were not born here but who have spent most of our working lives and see ourselves as contributing to the city. I think that it is very much a legitimate claim that city making is by all the people, by various sections of people in various ways at different points of time. It can never be a one-time view.
Okay, thank you.
Unfortunately, I just want to add here, unfortunately, political processes may or may not allow for this line of thought to be accepted. And therefore, we end up having to negotiate this in different spaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because if you think of Zohran Mamdani, he wasn't born in New York, but he has claim to New York and he's the mayor of New York, yet people during his election mentioned that he should be deported. He's not an American.
Yeah. So it's going to be like this, negotiating and conflictual because of all the complexities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Vyas, as an answer. So we can go on into Ajmain.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mouleshri, for the wonderful lecture. So my question was about like mainly maybe it's more of a follow-up of the question asked by Mr. Shahriar Haq. It's about because of the centralization, of course, India is more especially the economy. We see like a huge influx of population, and because of that there's a, I mean, from my understanding and from the readings that I've done, it seems like Mumbai is very segregated in so many ways, especially the community you mentioned, the Kolis, the Parsis, and so my question is there any, because of the segregation, is there any hostility among the communities? And do you see the similarity, if there's any hostility, do you see the similarity among the hostilities in like Mumbai, Delhi, and other cities that you've read? And also, is there a reason, like the smaller and maybe the disadvantaged communities, do they get lesser facility, and who gets to decide like what type of facilities they get? Like maybe the Kolis and the Parsis do not get the same facilities, from my understanding and from my assumption. And if you want to decentralize, maybe from the context of Bangladesh, a city like Dhaka or like Mumbai and Delhi, how do you do that, for the sake of the city and the future population? Because the city is population, the population of these cities are booming a lot. So, like, how do you do that, the decentralization? Because they have already so many problems like pollution, housing crisis, and then there's also monsoon disruption.
Thanks. I think that's That's quite a few questions. I'll just quickly try and respond as best as I can. One, the first point that you made, how do people also, is there conflict, or how do they, kind of interact with each other? I think that although there are distinct communities, and community identity does play an important role in everyday life and socialization of people. I think in the city there is hope because of the flows and interfaces of people. Meaning there's people on an everyday basis. People are coming out of that kolivara, and they are, kind of sorting out the fish, cleaning the fish, and then going out into the market to sell. And there's a regular clientele that they interact with. They move around in parts of the city, so there is a movement of people, and they do connect with other communities. So although maybe I'm generalizing a bit, but at least with the coolies, I can say that there is because of the business and the work that they do interact with others. I assume that other communities also do that. You move out for work. You're not confined to your neighborhood on a everyday basis all the time. So I think that allows for some kind of openness and some kind of interactions, or maybe on the flip side, also some kind of stereotyping to prevail. But there is interaction, and that is good. The other thing is about hostilities. Now, we find in neighborhoods, although the ones that I talked about are, you see a Parsi colony and you know that it's mainly Parsis, but there are also non-Parsis. In a Kolivada, it will be the Koli community. So in some, there is a larger degree of homogeneity. In certain neighborhoods, there is very much a mixed population, and there is that works positively in terms of dismantling stereotypes and hostilities in times of crisis, in times of troubles and problems in families, or larger crisis in the city. The neighbors have really stuck up for each other and helped each other, and that's, I think part of the resilience image also comes from that no matter what is happening at the larger city level, people have supported each other in spite of their differences as neighbors. So there is something to be said for the kind of solidarity that you have in neighborhoods, I think. About smaller communities having less facilities, now, it's not really the numerical strength that is a determining factor. Because if you look at the Parsis, they have also been, the leaders of industry, and also because of the way they are organized as a community, they also take care of community members. And so, it's you're not likely to find a Parsi who's without shelter or livelihoods or any kind of support. Their Parsi Panchayat or their umbrella organization would be taking care of the services that they need and the supports that they need. So it's not that smaller communities have less facilities, but one could say that, I think, which are the communities or neighborhoods that have less facilities, probably it's the type of neighborhood or the class of population that will help to understand what kind of marginalization they are experiencing, or what are the facilities that they are struggling for. But even there, one would not generalize about all settlements. Because it's a continuum of formality and informality, and so it's not only about certain type of community having less facilities. And I think your last question about decentralization is very important, and it's, although there is a certain impression of centralized governance and control, the fact is that at the city level there is decentralization, and so we don't really all have to go to one particular municipal corporation office to deal with our problems or concerns in the neighborhood. And you have your local people's representatives and the bureaucracy which is there to deal with those issues. So I think institutionally there is this kind of decentralization. Politically also it is there and it works. And recently, we have had elections to our municipal corporation. So, people's representatives are again in place after a gap of some years, but they are again in place. And so there is a voice that you have through your elected representatives. So I think that at the city level, this is how it works, though larger practices they are shaped by some central policies, but decentralization does work, and there are then civil society organizations which try to make it work. So on its own, the system is not going to work for everybody, but we have to keep at it to make it work and to respond to our concerns. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Edmine.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor Vyas. May I disseminate your email to the participants? Maybe one of them still wants to discuss more.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. Okay.
I look forward to that.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Professor Vyas. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to being in touch if anybody wants to get back and write email.
Oh, and I would like to explain that actually Professor Vyas now having one of the publication, but it's still under process. So that's why we cannot disseminate one of her publishers. So maybe once it's done, it's finished, we can disseminate to the participants. So that's why I will share her email to the participants after this, as always. And then thank you so much, Professor Vyas, for joining with us.
In fact, it has just reached me, so I'll share a copy with you, Deb.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay,
I'll get a soft copy and share it. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so we head to the second lecture, which will be lecture by Dr. Sirada. Dr. Sirada, I think she is already here. She is one of the chair in the Chiang University, also a lecturer in political department in Chiang University. So over to you, Dr. Sirada.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Sawadee ka. Yeah. I see like so many diversity in this class. So thank you so much, IDRC, for having me. And actually, I'm not in Chiang Mai or Bangkok right now. I'm in Manila, Philippines. I have another commitment on the conference to come here about migration as well. So yeah, it's great to be here. It's my first time here. And I'm not sure if any one of you living in the Philippines. I think, I'm not sure, Emmanuel, maybe. Right. But yeah, I think like also like I can see that some of you might be from India, right? And then Myanmar, right? I think we can like exchange a lot from the empirical parts on the topic today.
Yes, we have some participants from Philippines. As I remember, it's Victor, John, and Joanna also. So
That's great. Yeah. This is my first time here, so I really loved it. Yeah. Let me share my screen again. Let me, okay. I'm not sure because I didn't come for the first lecture. I'm not sure if some contents might be overlapped, but of course the case study I will based on a lot in Bangkok and in Chiang Mai, right? And then like from the readings that I gave to you, like also there's one related to global city, so we can discuss about that, and also we can deep into Bangkok and Chiang Mai case. Chiang Mai city, not the Chiang Mai province. For those who are not familiar with Thailand, so Chiang Mai is the city, is the province located in the northern part of Thailand. The overall province is very huge and many rural areas, but the city itself, the Chiang Mai city itself, very, very urbanized and full of migrants as well, and so many diverse there. So for those who are not familiar, and Bangkok, of course, Bangkok is the metropolitan city, and so there's so many foreign-born population living in Bangkok right now, and of course Thailand is the main destination, main destination and transit country for Myanmar people, especially after the coup, right? So before the coup, yes, we are the main destination, and after the coup, more and more complexity of the flows of migrants from Myanmar. But yeah, I think like many of you are already familiar with this term, right? Global city, right? The term global city is the urban area that perform critical function in the global political economy. The cities that are advanced producer of services, have large economies, and also kind of like have the international gateway to the political and cultural hubs of international significance, right? And the businesses would include also banking, finance, professional services, high-tech production, and so these sectors, they tend to concentrated in global cities, and where the city itself like connect to the world economy and the part of the economic globalization and capitalism. And then like we can see like this is more the Sassen, right? It's from Sassen literature in 1991. And if you look at the global level, of course, like there's so many examples, right? But if as we very much into the context of South Asia and Southeast Asia, maybe the definition maybe not fit so to many urban cities in South and Southeast Asia, but we can somehow learn from the concept and then compare to our urban cities in South and Southeast Asia. So in Southeast Asia, of course, Singapore would consider global cities, right? But for Bangkok, yeah, somehow maybe, but not maybe even not completely. But you can see a lot of diversity and how it linked to the global economy, right? Through the banking and finance services, and then many investment from multinational corporations. Also, like Kuala Lumpur, of course, Kuala Lumpur would be the one, and then like Kuala Lumpur is super diverse, right? It's a very super diversity. So when it comes to migration and urban areas or the cities, you can see that when we talk about migration, we not only see through the lens, through the level of analysis in the country level, but also we can think about we much more think about the city level, because the urban area attract a lot of migration, right? Attract a lot of migrants to the city due to the availability of the jobs, and then also, of course, these kind of cities, they have kind of like different types of the jobs that we are going to look at. So let me. Yeah, some example you're already familiar, right? And yeah, and like for us, for our region, maybe we can talk about kind of like the metropolitan areas and the large cities, because like Bangkok is not Bangkok itself, right? It's Bangkok metropolitan, right? Including surrounding provinces, the urban area of surrounding provinces. And the metropolitan itself, like they're very crowded, right? And then so many diversity, and the migrants not only live in Bangkok, but also the surrounding province, as I mentioned. And also like, yeah, is within the major receiving countries, yeah, we can tend to see more and more immigrants clustered in the cities, in some cities, not every province, right? Now also maybe of course in the border areas, but the capital cities and metropolitan area rather be the most attractive area for the migration. And migration and urbanization are often interlinked processes. So once migrants arrive in the city, they tend to remain significantly contributing to urban population growth and economic development. And the large city and metropolitan areas mainly attractors to these flows. And cities also be the space, right? The space not only for the jobs, but the space for the contribution in terms of cultural diversity, and then like that would also lead to the creation of diaspora of migrants, and then like also you can see how one area become urbanized and become the large cities. The one of the how to say one of the measurement to see whether the areas are really urbanized and being the large city or metropolitan one would be whether they are full of migrants, full of like foreign born population living in the city, living in the areas or not. So this is could be one index, right, to see whether the area itself are the large city ones. If there are a lot of share of the strangers in the local population, then that would be one measurement, right? And then like this is also the core capitalist nations attract disproportionate share of immigrants if we look at the global level, right? And this is they arise through the world system theory of IR of international political economy. And like, yeah, the volume of movement of the migration, right, would decrease as the distance between the place of origin and the destination increase. Yeah, so this is also look through the geographical factor. And the rise in urbanization, of course, is happened around South and Southeast Asia. Because if we look at the global level, yeah, we see a lot of global city in Western world or the first world industrialized country, but we are in the regions that full of the emerging, right? We are emerging economy, so the economic contribution concentrated a lot in the capital and the metropolitan area, and of course that would. If you look at the national level, right, this kind of phenomenon contributed to the inequality even at the national level. So the capital and economic, right, concentrated in the area, and even the population, even the national one and the international one. And you can see like the proportionate of foreign born population. If you look at the case of global cities in Western world, it's so obvious, right? It's so obvious, and then the proportion of the foreign born population would be very significant. For example, in New York, might be like 31% of the population are foreign born, or even like in Sydney, the third of the population is foreign born. While in Thailand, we don't have specific statistic on that, but you can see from on the street, like empirically, like so many. When we walk anywhere in Bangkok, like we always find foreigners, any kind of, any nationality, not only Myanmar, not only our neighboring countries, but even the Westerners, Japan or Chinese, very diverse in Bangkok. And of course, like migrants, very critical, right? Very critical and important to the urban area. I think I heard a little bit from the last lecture. They also have the word like backbone, right? So migrants are the backbone of the urban survival, right? And then like migrants, the city itself that creates space for the migrants to live and present in the urban area. And even they don't have the political right, they cannot vote, right? Many of course, maybe in some rare cases in the first world, in the Western world, they might allow at the local level for foreign-born population to vote, right? But in our cases in South and Southeast Asia, I don't think it's a case at all. We want, and we don't, and the state will not. Definitely, they will not allow foreign-born population to vote, right? If they don't get the citizenship yet. So even the migrants cannot vote and have the full political rights. So, but they already changed the city culture. They changed our lifestyle. Somehow they teach us how to see the diversity in terms of culture and like the other kind of like societal factor. And yeah, and of course we all know about the contribution in terms of economy, right, of migrants. And if you look at back to the global city concept, right, we can see how migrants contribute to the global city, right? And global city also important to the global economy. The city manage production process that increasingly decentralized, like with labor intensive operations located in low wage countries and capital intensive processes in high wage area. And then like the expansion of service sectors such as health, education, and hospitality also plays significant role. And immigrants are drawn to global cities due to embedded demand for their labors within the structure of the international economy. So this would create the bifurcated labor market structure. So from the concept of global economy and the labor market structure, we can use this to analyze and then see through this lens when we talk about the urban areas in South and Southeast Asia as well, the metropolitan area and large cities. And you can see like the bifurcated labor market structure existing in the metropolitan area. So this is the concept, right? Some of you might have been familiar already, but let me repeat a little bit, right? So Sasson said like global cities attract influxes of immigrants, both for highly specialized activities and for low-skilled service jobs which service the luxurious lifestyles of the elites. So the city economy is split into basically like this concept saying that the cities split into two areas, two type of the jobs, right? The first one would be the top layer, right? The top layer, high-paid professionals. Banking, for example, like banking, technology, managers, and at the same time, so this is the high-paid one would be the skill job, right? And at the same time, these cities themselves create another layer of the job, which is the bottom layer, the low-paid one, the low-paid workers. So even like the cities themselves like contribute in terms of financing or the high technology, but they still need the low-paid workers like to accommodate like their lifestyle and also to run the operation, right? For example, like the construction workers, cleaners, food services. Yeah, so this kind of job even like have a high demand among the large cities and metropolitan area. Right? You can see like as cities they amass wealth, so there's growing demand for services, right? Even the hotels, right? They need more like even not the low-paid job, but like semi-skilled job, which is not really high-skilled jobs, right? So these jobs, right, immigrants are more likely to fill. And that somehow it might create the conflict and clash with the poorly educated local people, right? Some might say, oh, these immigrants come to the large cities and steal the jobs from the poorly educated local people. But if we look at the big structure, right? If we look at the overview, like most jobs are unwanted by local people, even those who are poorly educated or kind of like in the not in a good socioeconomic, right? Not in good socioeconomic status. And so that labor-intensive job still have high demand and the immigrants need to fill it anyway. Right? And this kind of job services unlike other kind of job, they cannot outsource to other area. This is the job that have to fix in the geographical area, the cities themselves, right? And of course, the AI cannot work this kind of jobs. So the urban area heavily rely on immigrants. So this is some example, right? I like, for example, in Bangkok, and this is some three or four from Bangkok. So the construction is mainly by Cambodian migrants and Burmese migrants, and a service job in the restaurant, right? They're mostly Burmese, and even in urban area like Chiang Mai also, almost every restaurant, right, they're Burmese are mostly Chan. Chan is one of ethnicity in Myanmar because they more assimilated to northern part of Thailand. But after the coup, right after the 2021 coup from Myanmar, so more and more diversify in terms of ethnicity from Myanmar. So even Burmese, like Burman, who are majority ethnic in Myanmar, they also come to Chiang Mai and then look for the jobs in Chiang Mai. And then when we go to the Western restaurant in Chiang Mai, right, we have a lot of type of restaurant. Even in the Western restaurant, Western food restaurant, the waiter and waitresses mostly they are Burmese because they speak English well and they speak English better than Thai people, I would say, because Thai people they don't familiar with speaking English at all in general. So yeah, so this is the phenomenon that had happened, and even the urban city like Chiang Mai that is not really the large or metropolitan ones, but still they need immigrants to help hospitality and tourism sector in Chiang Mai. And then like the last would be, of course, the services from cleaners and doing the housework and even the caregivers, right? So yeah, Thailand also is facing aging society. We are living in the era of aging society. So yeah, we having a very severe population decline. If you haven't known, I have to explain more, like that Thailand would be the only developing country that face this phenomenon. We have the real decline of population. So this is how the country itself and the urban area of the cities really need laborers, and then also even I think in the short future, not only laborers in the low paid job, but also even the semi-skilled or high skilled we also need as well, because my generation, mostly we don't have children anymore. So meaning that the Gen Z generation themselves, the population really, really low, right? The number of population of Gen Z themselves really low. So who gonna like make contribution to our economy? And even like Thailand want to upskill the whole country, want to go beyond the middle income trap. So how could we do if we don't have enough qualifying population? So this is what we have to think and plan for the long future of our nation as well. So this is in terms of economy, very obvious, right? Bifurcated labor structure and even the contribution in the labor market, in any kind of labor market. And of course, like in the societal part, in terms of culture, we also, see that migrants, they bring in the diversity through the social network, through the creating social network, and they have a lot of social capital, right? They not just come here, come to Thailand or come to Malaysia only for jobs, right? But they come with identities and culture. And the social network themselves, they're the network of survival and network of integration. They help themselves to integrate to the society, to the cities. And according to the literature that I sent to you, so one would be the case of Myanmar migrants in Malaysia. So So the writer, right, identified three main types of network. First, family and friends for emotional support. Second, agents and brokers to find jobs, but even like this agent would involve exploitation. And the third one would be community organization to solve problems together. So for the community organizations, that would also link to like religious institution, the groups, like any kind of community that they create in the city area, right? They help a lot, and also maybe involved with the NGO or CSO, right? So that would cope with migration and settlement, and then like, yeah, this is also very much like talked and discussed in international migration literature about the migrant social network, right? When this is made up of interpersonal ties linking migrants, previous migrants and non-migrants in origin and destination communities. So for Massey, this literatures are very classic in international migration literature. And here, right, yeah, immigrants, migrants, right, foreign-born population, they all contribute to make the cultural diversity in the in cities, in the urban area and metropolitan area, and make more and more the cities and area themselves to be more cosmopolitan. And immigrants more likely to integrate when they join communities through social network, as I mentioned, to find the support, right? To find the emotional support and social capital support through those who speak in the same language, right? And that would make the city themselves become multicultural area. If we look at a global level, of course, we would see the grand examples from London, Sydney, New York, right? They become the super diversity and very visible. Yeah, very visible in these global cities. But of course, even in our urban area in Bangkok or Kuala Lumpur, we can see this kind of diversity as well. And it also linked to the ethnic clustering and community formation that might be seen through this, right? Through the how they form the community, how they link to the social network. And even the social network might not only meaning that they link among their own nationalities, but in the case of Myanmar migrants, they mostly linked with those with the same ethnicity, because Myanmar countries is highly culturally diverse, and they have like a lot of ethnicities. So when they come to Thailand, they're kind of like close to their own the same, those who have the same ethnicity with them, because they speak the same language. And in the case of Malaysia, when I went to Kuala Lumpur, right, maybe some of you also in Kuala Lumpur also, like, they host a lot of Chin, CHIN, Chin ethnicity from Myanmar. And within Chin ethnicity, they also have a lot of groups within Chin which speak different language. So in Kuala Lumpur, for example, they have their own community and clubs according to the language they speak, not only separate based on the ethnicity, but also separate group based on the language that they speak. So this is very rich, right? So make the city itself very rich in terms of culture and the languages, and then how they form the community and how they interact each other in the church. Well, actually, I the photo here. Where is it? Yeah, photo here. For example, is the church in Kuala Lumpur, run by Chin community. But I took this photo for a long time, so I cannot remember which language that this group spoke. So yeah, but they spoke the same language, and then like they didn't go to the other church who also Chin ethnicity as well, but they speak different language. So they separate through this, but this helped them to integrate to Kuala Lumpur like more comfortably, right? And then they also like to go to Kuala Lumpur because they find a pathway to resettle in the third country, which is now maybe not the case like 7 to 8 years ago. And this is also this is not from me. This photo also the church, Shin Ethnicity Church in Kuala Lumpur as well. Yeah, it's from the news. So religious place, right? Yeah, become the place to for their sense of belonging in the city. So this religious place also create the social space and make the city become multicultural. Yeah. And in Thailand, we are migration state. We're receiving, hosting, and sending transit country, and the displacement from Myanmar after the 2021 coup become more and more complexity. Not only economic migrants, but we also host political refugee and temporary refugees, and even those who actually fleeing from the armed conflict inside Myanmar, but when they arrive Thailand, because Thailand doesn't have refugee policy, they doesn't have the refugee registration channel. So many of Myanmar, even they are in reality, they might be refugees. When they come to Thailand, they become migrant workers because we don't have the channel for them. So meaning that they have some of them, they have to transform themselves to be workers, or they have some overlapping status between being migrants and being refugees. And of course, not only the economic migrants or even political refugees, but the displacement from Myanmar after the coup also create like the new phenomenon of migration from Myanmar to Thailand, which are the middle class, a lot of middle class, a lot of young people coming to studies or work in semi-skilled jobs in Thailand, or finding Thailand as stepping stone to go to other countries in the future. Also, we have a lot of business people or entrepreneurs, also middle class who are adult, who finish their degree before, so they come to Thailand and they open business. So there are a lot more and more like Myanmar businesses in Bangkok and in Chiang Mai city. Yeah, so I show this because this is the current phenomenon, and that would link to the diversity in urban areas of Thailand as well. So this is in Bangkok, at the construction site. This is the photo I took. The Myanmar is they are Pao ethnicity in the construction site, and in the middle. Yeah, it's called Nana area. If any of you would ever come to Bangkok and Nana area, a lot of Arabic restaurant, and then like also immigrants who come from Middle East also live in this area as well. So yeah, this area make Bangkok really look cosmopolitan. And on the right-hand side is the area called Pratu Nam. So very rich in culture. They're full of Burmese, Cambodian, Vietnamese, also like some refugees and migrants from even African continent. Right? We saw even like Ethiopian restaurants and then scripts along the area. So very, very rich. So this, I say like migration also make the Bangkok look very interesting and culturally diverse, right? So cities function as landing zones for migrants, and then like make this very rich in terms of culture. Also in terms but for example, on Chiang Mai City, right? For Chiang Mai City, we have a lot of, because it's much smaller area than Bangkok metropolitan. For Bangkok metropolitan, it's very normal to see foreign-owned businesses because so many foreign-born population. But in Chiang Mai City, when there are foreigners own restaurant is so visible, and now we see a lot of Burmese owned restaurant in Chiang Mai City. I would say after 2021 coup, I'm doing the research right now. So more than 100 new businesses opened by Myanmar people who choose to come to Chiang Mai City after 2021 coup. So, and then make the city itself like open to the new culture, to the new food, to the new cuisine, right? Burmese cuisine, which is never been popular in Thailand before. Yeah, but now we getting more and more familiar with Burmese cuisine in Chiang Mai City and even in Bangkok. So yeah, so this is one example, right? Left hand side is the restaurant called And Den. Yeah, And Den is the name of And Den. Yeah, so this is the restaurant where Lana cuisine. Lana is the northern Thai. Lana mean northern Thai, and then like the Lana cuisine and Burmese cuisine, they combine in this restaurant. So this make the culture really more intertwined and interesting. And then like for the right hand side is the very famous Burmese cafe. It's called Sin Mei, right? Sin Mei Tea House, for example. So before we didn't know much, and then I think that general Thai people, they don't know much about Burmese tea, for example, or Burmese cuisine. So the migration make the city be open more and more. But I would say, right? There's some tensions when it comes to this day. We have like it's kind of like the phenomenon of the rise of nationalism, right? And of course, that would lead to the topic about the nativism. So the rise of nationalism would create the tension. And I would not say that all Thai people being like that, or the local people in the cities being nationalists, but the voices of nationalist narrative and rhetorics, they become louder and louder in the society. And that would create tension a lot. And then the tension would come from the mindset thinking about stealing jobs kind of thing, which is, yeah, we can look in a different way, right? They think about stealing jobs like those who open business in Thailand might kind of like compete directly to Thai businesses, for example. So stealing job narrative as a return of the narrative is not the same interpretation as it was before. The previous interpretation in the past, in the last 20 years would 15 to 20 years would think about the competition between low-paid job worker to migrant workers. But these days, stealing job narrative, they return and then interpret differently. They think about mostly, some semi-skilled jobs or even the SME businesses, right? So this is the tension already happened in some areas, in some urban areas in Thailand. And also like, nativism would be think like, local people should come first and outsider like the threat, but the threat mostly the thing in Thailand, in the Thailand context, they think in terms of economic threat, not that other kind of threat. Other thing might be like identity threat, but I don't think it can be, right? It can be the case because Thai identity also they have their own culture, they have their own style, right? And they're built through the nation building process quite a long time and very strong. So yeah, that would not be the case. So that nepotism mindset, right, would lead to more and more control and then to hide migrant presence or even to maybe somehow let migrants feel scared of expressing their own identities in the cities. So this is also becoming very concerning for me. And at the same time, like the mindset of super diversity, right? Yeah, we also can see the richness of many cultures living together in the city contributed by migrants, right? And they enrich the city and provide essential labor. So they both contribute in economy and society and culture. And so there are tension between the economic need for migrants, especially in the terms of labors, right? But at the same time, some local people might think about economic threat because they believe so. Even through the studies, through the statistic, we know that migrants always not always, I mean, positive majority, right, of the studies and majority of like the research would say like migrants really contribute to local economy because it help create the expand the ecosystem of economy and also more and more purchasing power because migrants are not only laborers, right? Migrants are not only who reside in one certain area, but they also consumers. They also they pay for the local area as well. And so this created tension between this need and the contribution and the political desire to exclude them, mainly due to the rise of nationalism. So the future, we have to think about the plural city, right? So there don't only work, right? Migrants don't just work in the city, they remake the city. And if you just want to see more prosperity, actually, it's necessary to have the plural city. And there already, I mean, migrants already become a permanent part of the urban fabric. Like, for example, the cases in Bangkok, in Kuala Lumpur, or even in Chiang Mai city. So yeah, briefly, this is my presentation. So I open to the Q&A and or any exchange opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sirada. So before we moving forward to the question, to close these two cases, Mumbai and Thailand's migrant city show that the city is never just physical space or an economic machine. It is continuously produced through histories of power and infrastructure, through migration and labor markets, and through neighboring boundaries where belonging is negotiated in everyday life. As time goes by, now the migrant labor and everything is just become so blurry and like integrated with the local community both in Mumbai as well as in Thailand. We have 3 questions from the participants. First, I think I saw Hanif and then Hazaria Hakyu, and the last one will be Emilio. So over to you, Hanif.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Am I audible, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sirada, for very good presentations. And I want to ask a questions, Dr. Sirada. How much the immigrants would contribute to the development of the cities? And do the output always positive? Because, if we are talking about the arrival of the immigrants, it has the potential to clash with the natives, especially if we are talking about the labor markets. You already mentioned about high skill labor market and also low skill labor market. But when the immigrants, they place too much in the center of the city, and that can wipe all the natives, and it eventually will conclude to the clash that happens. But not also in economic terms, but also the clash in identity and also cultures, because sometimes the immigrants, they didn't mix together with the locals culture? I think that's all about my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not sure. So I think it depends on the context, right? Where are you from? Sorry, Hanif.
I'm from Indonesia.
Oh, you're from Indonesia.
From
I
Jakarta.
I don't have knowledge about migration in Indonesia, so I'm so sorry. But according to my empirical data, when I study about migration in Thailand, right? So it's very significant and very clear that Thailand needs a lot of labor, a lot of labor. We have high labor demands in Thailand because even the poorly educated Thai people, they don't want to do certain kind of jobs. So I'm so sorry for Myanmar people here, but this is the big picture in Thailand really. So that's why they rely a lot to Myanmar migrant workers and then also even Cambodian workers. But so they already kind of like familiar with this phenomenon to have migrant labor from our neighboring countries. But I would say like now there are more tensions because Myanmar migration flows after 2021 coup in Myanmar, they really intensify the complexity in the flows and more educated, as I mentioned, more and more educated Myanmar come to Thailand and that they come to open businesses and that would create another tension as so this is still ongoing phenomenon. So at the end, maybe, yeah, it might be the case to compete with the local really, but in terms of economy, they really contribute to the economy, right? But if we look through the lens of nativism, yeah, it like, oh, why we don't like prioritize the local people first, right? But if we look through the lens to accept the diversity, to accept the mutual prosperity, then why not, right? Why not we include them to the economic into the economics and our society, because at the end, who gain the most? I think Thailand would gain the most, or the whole society would gain the most. So this is the case of Thailand, but I'm not sure about the Indonesia cases. And for the identity, so this is, I think maybe it should be two-way communication, right? So it's not only that Thai people or Thai society need to understand the Myanmar culture, for example, right? But Myanmar migrants themselves, when they come to Thailand, they need to understand the local context and the regulation, some culture, some Thai culture as well to assimilate, not really assimilate, integrate, right? Not assimilate, sorry, to integrate to the local society and live harmoniously. This is actually in Chiang Mai city. We don't have much problem about that because we have quite similar culture, and we have similarity in the culture between Thailand and Myanmar. So there's less challenges in terms of adaptation, and openness. But when it comes to other areas in Thailand, or where some area, I would not name the city though, because there's so many cities that full of industrialized zone and they need a lot of laborers. So when they have a lot of Myanmar laborers in these cities that their culture is not similar to Myanmar, somehow the local people think differently from Chiang Mai people, So it depends on the context as well, how the cultural similarity would play a role or not. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Doctor. My question actually comes from the conditions that happens in Negeri Aceh Darussalam. So Aceh is the province lies in the north of Indonesia, and I think in the 2023, like you mentioned about the 2021 coup in Myanmar, many refugees comes to the Aceh, and at first we accept all the refugees that comes from the Myanmar, from Rohingyas ethnicity. But as time by pass, their cultures, I mean, we have so many problems because of the refugees that comes in the large scales of people, and because of it, the locals who used to accept the migrants, they now refuse it because of the problems. Yeah. The problems can happen because of the economic terms, the cultural, and also identity. And that's why I've come with the question. Thank you very much, by the way, for the
Thank you so
response.
much for exchanging. Ha.
Okay, so Syahria Haq.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you for an insightful presentation. Your lecture mainly seemed to focus on international migrants and migration. So can you can you tell us what are the impacts of internal migrants, or you can say internal migration? My question is related to Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, which is not a top-tier global city like New York or London, but it holds a second classification like a gamma global city. Now, Dhaka has a population of almost 30 million people, and more than 11 million people leave the city during the Eid vacations, and Eid is the biggest festival in our country. So we have two of those. The fact that more than 11 people leave Dhaka for their hometown to celebrate Eid suggests that there's a big migrant population here as well. But these are not international migrants, but they are from other parts of the country who come to the city. So do you have any comments regarding internal migration and the kind of impact that it might have in a city? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for telling me and telling the floor about the Daga cases, right? And then full of people, and very high number of population, yeah, even more than Bangkok, I would say.
It's
So
the most populated city in the world, and it
yes, populated in the world, right? Most populated. For Bangkok, of course, we've long been having internal migration from northeastern of part of Thailand, mainly from northeastern part of Thailand. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Thai food, but one Thai food which is coming from the phenomenon of internal migration in Thailand is som tam or papaya salad. So it becomes the very popular dish for Bangkok people, for Bangkok Thai people, because of the internal migration, and they long been coming to Bangkok. I think already more than 40 years, 50 years, and they integrated already in the urban area, in the metropolitan area of Bangkok. So the riders, motorcycle riders, taxis, right? All the services, yeah, they mainly from northeastern part of Thailand. So they create already embedded their own culture in Bangkok, and also like, but not in terms of language because Thailand kind of very centralized in terms of the official language. So when they come to Bangkok, they have to speak in Bangkok dialect. Yeah, so any internal migrants they have to speak in Bangkok dialect unless when they live together in their own communities. And also like I think this is one thing, that the food would be one obvious and clear example. Yeah.
The food example is pretty interesting because I think because of internal migration, Dhaka's food culture has also changed as well to a certain extent. The famous dishes of the country, different places outside Dhaka, those are having an impact, and as a result, number of restaurants have also started based on that food culture. So that's pretty interesting as well. Thank you.
Very interesting as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
Emilio, right? Emilio.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you a lot for your lecture. It was very insightful. I wanted to ask you about different
Emilio,
categories
can you
of
just come
migrants.
closer to the microphone? Can you come
Yes,
closer
of
to the
course, of
microphone?
course. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah,
now we can hear you.
perfect. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about like different categories of migrants and different attitudes from the government and local population to those different categories of migrants that separate themselves between um, the highly paid professionals and the low paid service workers, no? Because, well, at least in my city, in Mexico City, right now, we're about to have the World Cup, no? So the city has become what they call the Airbnbization of the city, no? Like population is like floating population. There's a lot of tourists. There's a lot of digital nomads which come to move, and increasingly you see two types of migrants. No, all of those who want to reach the U.S. that come from Central America, etc., that settle in the peripheries of the city, and then you see other kinds of migrants who are people with a lot more money who are highly paid professionals, and we actually have there are nativist movements, we could call them, against both kinds of groups. So I wanted to know in Bangkok, in Thailand, how differently are these different types of migrants treated by the government and by the migratory policy of the government.
Yeah, it's very complicated, I would say, because like in Thailand, we also have different political groups and political opinions on migration or on even on the power politics in general. So as I say, we also have nationalist group. We also have ultra nationalist group that was quite long, and then the migration also become one of the political tool for the conservative groups to attack against progressive political party. So this is what is happening in Thailand. But thank you for your question. But yeah, for Thailand case is unfortunately that I think Thai people in general public, they not really understand the complexity of migration flows from our neighboring countries, especially from Myanmar, because Myanmar migration to Thailand very, very complex, right? But general Thai public, they don't know. They mostly like stereotype wrongly, stereotype all people from Myanmar, migrants, like so they don't really like have the enough knowledge about that. So mostly they think about like, oh, why while they know that Thailand needs low skill, low paid jobs, workers in Thailand from Myanmar and from other neighboring countries. But at the same time, they kind of like still have kind of like superior mindset against migrant workers. They don't want to give the status, the full status to the migrants or even the welfare. They also like really concerned about the welfare, which is not good. I wouldn't say this is good thing that general Thai people think in that way, but this is the phenomenon that's happening in Thailand for more than 2 years. So basically, like they think like, okay, migrants when they come to Thailand, they have to only work in the unwanted job, for example, or they must not do businesses. But the reality is right now they also do businesses in Thailand. I mean the SME, maybe they open grocery store, they open restaurant, right? So this is how now the Thai public think like that in that way, and very contrast to the reality of the complexity in migration flow from Myanmar to Thailand. For the government side, they know the situation. When I talk to different government agencies in Thailand, they perceive the different type of migration, like the high skill one, the middle class one, the wealthy one, the political refugee ones, and the low skill one. But when it comes to the policy making process, they only focus on labor migration. They only focus on migrant workers because this is openly needed by Thai entrepreneurs, openly needed by Thai business sectors, because they are the one who shape the policy making process in Thailand, while other kind of migration is not really being active, right? No, not being, not, I mean, in terms of policy making process is not very active, right? No refugee channel, no political refugee would be perceived or recognized officially by Thai government. And then also for the high school one, for the middle class one, if they want to work in Thailand, they just have to apply through the like maybe business visa, or have to apply to companies in Thailand or multinational companies in Thailand and get the work permit. But we don't have the certain migration management for high skilled workers from Myanmar. So this is how the government just manage. They only manage for the labor migrant workers. So this is happening, but in reality, they know what happened. But in policy, in the official way, they would not accept, they would not recognize other kind of migration.
Thank you a lot.
Okay,
Sirada.
Thank you. I don't know if it's too complicated. And I saw one.
Yeah, one
Thank you.
question more from Aung Han. He's asking, how has the integration of Myanmar communities into Thai society contributed to the perception of Thailand as a multicultural and inclusive nation?
Yeah, I think this is a good way of thinking. That I think the advocacy network who support migrants from Myanmar would love to adopt this kind of thinking, right? That's why the advocacy network who work with Myanmar migrants and refugees, we also trying a lot to kind of like have conversation with Myanmar communities, how they adapt to Thai culture, to Thai society. And Thai society, they kind of quite how to say, they don't like to see so much different culture from them. So I think this is also the case of other society as well. So if we can see, we can come, how to say, in the into the midway, right? Integrate in two ways. So I mean, Thai society should also adapt to the cultural diversity, and at the same time, Myanmar migrants also have to adapt themselves to Thai society. That I think that would also, of course, contribute to the lively multicultural society. So, but sorry to say that, because like historically, like Thailand is very centralized in terms of cultural inclusivity. Even Thai people themselves who have different identity from central part of Thailand, their identity also erased as well. This is true in Thai history. Yeah. And Eshita, right? Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. How do women migrants negotiate precarity, mobility, and agency in integration of the migrant community from Myanmar in Thai urban space? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not quite an expert on gender and displacement, but I can see that actually, like Myanmar women, Myanmar female migrants, so they face another layer of precarity based on the gender, right? And then they face a lot of cases with the domestic violence, and when and many of post 2021 migrants from Myanmar are undocumented, and those who are women, yeah, and coming to Thailand without document, and they have to come with their husband or their partner or their boyfriend. Many cases that they have to face domestic violence, and then it's hard for them, right, to report to Thai authorities or police, right? So this is how they are facing in Thailand as well, because majority of them are undocumented. But at the same time, I would say they resilient. I would say in the quotation mark resilient, right? They're resilient, and some of them might manage to have the community among themselves, right? And then help each other. I saw a lot of groups in Mae Sot is a border town area in between Thailand and Myanmar, and a lot of undocumented migrants from Myanmar. So they form a lot of feminist communities to help each other and then to kind of like raise their voices on this issue. Yeah.
Okay, I think the time is over. So thank you so much, Dr. Sirada, for joining us. If I may ask you permission, can I disseminate your emails to the participants?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So maybe some of participants still wants to discuss with you. So Dr. Sirada is so much expert about the migration in Thailand, especially about the Myanmar context and policy in Thailand. So feel free to reach her, and I will disseminate her email. Okay. Thank you so much for joining with us. And I have
And a
another
very big thank you to both Sirada and Dr. Mouleshri. Sirada is joining from Philippines, so it's like past 8:30. We're really, really sorry for keeping you so late. And thank
No
you so
worry
much,
at all.
Mouleshri, for staying. Thank you
Thank you,
very, very much.
Professor. Thank you, Professor. ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for your attention and your attendance today. I already put the attendance list also in the chat box, and I received some of your attendance here. So okay. And see you next week. Thank you for joining today.